That's as much as we can play of the song before we get demonetized. But somebody once told me that Shrek it's insane what Shrek is. Shrek has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Not Mike Myers, not the film director, Shrek. Shrek has that star on the Walk of Fame, and he's made of pixels. Just putting him up there with the legends, like Mickey Mouse, Bugs Bunny, the hot mayor's assistant wife thing from Powerpuff Girls. She doesn't have a star on the Walk of Fame. I think she should, though, but Kermit the Frog does, so I'll just say Kermit. The importance of this Scottish ogre is hard to overstate, but also maybe a little hard to pin down. He's taken on a life of his own. Multiple movies, video games, a musical for some god reason. Look how scary this Shrek man is. There's even Shrek adult films, which then you know you made it when someone's parodying your movie, but with piss and and I can't talk about those here, but I can talk about them over on extratug.com. There wasn't that ad at the beginning. There's an ad in the middle now. I'm switching it up on you. Sign up today for the cost of $4 a month, less than the cost of a Crunchwrap Supreme. You'll get extra content every month where I swear a bunch and say bad things and put kind of really dirty things on the screen. I'll never let you forget about what I do over on extratug.com. It's imperative that you never forget. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and ironically, his impact on culture is also in the eye of the beholder. This movie means something different to everybody, and we're gonna unpack all of that right now. So grab your onions and your green ketchup. I think they did that for Shrek, because we're heading to Duloc, baby. Let's rip it. This goofy fairy tale is ingrained in our culture today, but it had very unlikely beginnings. Shrek started as a children's book, which not a lot of people remember, and my camera's out of battery. It was written in 1990 by William Steig, or Steig, I don't know German, a former New Yorker cartoonist. You know, New Yorker cartoons, crudely drawn, don't really have a lot of meaning, very pretentious. Seinfeld talked about it. Yeah, he was drawing those for 30 years, becoming known as the King of Cartoons. And his version of Shrek looks a lot like one of those busted New Yorker comics. But weirdly, something about this green ogre seemed to resonate with kids. Maybe it was literally just the preschooler version of reading the New Yorker, you know, a chance for pretentious 5-year-olds to chuckle and pretend to be better than everybody else. But eventually, the book wound up in the hands of Steven Spielberg's children, which, if you could get in the hands of those children, you're golden. And I'm talking like today. Like, I don't know how old they are today, but if they can if you can get near the man. But Spielberg liked it so much that he purchased the rights to it in 1991. He envisioned a classic 2D rendition of the film, one with Bill Murray as the voice of Shrek and Steve Martin as the voice of Donkey. And as much as I enjoy both of those actors, I cannot imagine them in those roles. But while Spielberg was envisioning an entirely different version of Shrek, a guy by the name of Jeffrey Katzenberg was revitalizing Disney. As the chairman of Walt Disney Studios from 1984 to 1994, he oversaw what is known as the Disney Renaissance era. You know, like all those movies that were like 2D and they've been milking those for generations, and they make like 3D versions of them now, and they all suck wang, but they keep making them because you keep bringing your dumbass kids to go see them. Knock it off. But before this glorious age, there were a few decades for Disney that were really rough. Their animation team was struggling, and they were bombing at the box office over and over again. But under Katzenberg, bangers. All the bangers out. We're talking Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, The Lion King. That is a run that is like no other. Maybe like Pixar in the early 2000s when they went from like Toy Story to WALL-E. But besides that, no one has done it like that before or again. Which is crazy because we're talking about Shrek, which I kind of forgot about, so let's circle back. For his effort, Katzenberg was getting lots of attention. This rubbed his boss, Disney CEO Michael Eisner, the wrong way. I don't have time to go into Michael Eisner. Go watch any Defunct Land video and he will talk about him. Michael Eisner was a effective but extremely big piece of shit. That's the best way I can describe him. After Katzenberg was snubbed for a promotion to president of the company, he quit and instead formed DreamWorks Pictures with Spielberg in 1994. I don't know about you, but if I was Michael Eisner, I'd be like, that guy was really good and I didn't give him a job because of that. And then he teamed up with Spielberg and now they're doing their own thing? That probably won't be an issue. They probably won't make How to Train a Dragon. That will be fine. With their powers combined, they tackled the Shrek project with a fresh new approach, one that was met with challenges pretty much every step of the way. Within DreamWorks, an assignment to work on Shrek became a kiss of death for animators. Many people within the company considered it an absolutely doomed project, and being forced to work on it was known as getting Shreked, which I think nowadays has a completely different meaning if you go on Urban Dictionary. Multiple directors, writers, and producers came and went, including the writer of Pirates of the Caribbean and Beavis and Butthead Do America, and the director of Nightmare Before Christmas, which I don't know if that was Tim Burton or not. It gets weird. Like, it's from the mind of Tim Burton, but I don't know if he directed that movie. Chris, figure that out for me, please.
Hi. It's me, Chris. I'm editing the video right now, and I'm recording this because Tucker needs me to clear something up. Tim Burton did not direct Nightmare Before Christmas. That was actually Henry Selick. He's the one who did all the work, and then Tim Burton came along and slapped his name on it and made it seem like it was his after the fact. Kind of like when I edit these videos and then I send it over to Tucker and then he uploads it to his YouTube channel. It's kind of like that.
There were also versions of the film that never made it to the screen, including one that blended motion capture and puppetry with actors dressed in fat suits. Eventually, all of those terrible ideas were scrapped, and they settled on 3D CGI animation. And this was a big move, because even though Toy Story was the first one to use 3D animation, and it obviously worked out really well, Shrek was the first movie that used it in a truly realistic form. No offense to Toy Story, but one of the reasons they went with toys was because they couldn't really nail like skin textures or hair textures well. I remember the baby in fucking Toy Story, it was terrifying. So they went with glossy toys, plastic toys, because that was easier to do in computer animations. And they look at Shrek's skin. They had to figure that out on the fly. The characters in Shrek had to feel real. These weren't toys, they were alive, and they had to move and react naturally. There was actually an entire team of animators dedicated just for Donkey's fur, which is weird that I think about it. I don't even remember him having fur. I guess he does. But they had to create new technology just to animate Donkey, which is Shrek is so stupid. It's so breaking and stupid. And the breakthroughs they made with Donkey's fur would go on to help them animate clothing, grass, moss. It was truly innovative and enabled better CGI in movies moving forward. Pixar always gets his flowers, but currently we're living in the house that Shrek built, and it's in a swamp. And it's a little gross, but you're gonna bitch about it, you're gonna bitch and moan this entire time. Holy shit, it's a good movie, and it's great. The dedication to making Shrek look real, though, was intense. Members of the animation team took actual mud showers to study fluid dynamic simulation. And when the art director took a trip to Magnolia Plantation in Charleston, South Carolina to do research for Shrek Swamp, he was chased by an alligator. What is going on? What is going on? As much work as the movie was to animate, it was just as tricky to cast. Originally, 90s alternative comedian Janeane Garofalo was hired to voice Princess Fiona, which really wouldn't have given the princess her tough, edgy vibe, more like a disinterested stoner bitch vibe. I don't know why I said bitch. That was a lot. I meant like bitch like, what's up, bitch? Like, hey girl. Sorry. Chris, don't leave any of that in. But without explanation, Janeane Garofalo, I can't say her name, was canned for Cameron Diaz. And for Shrek, DreamWorks originally floated crazy ideas like Tom Cruise and Leonardo DiCaprio, and maybe craziest of all, Nick Cage. I would love to have Nick Cage as Shrek. I'm kind of pissed that didn't happen. But Cage turned down the role because, quote, he didn't want to look like an ogre. That's not how animation works, Chrissy, my little boy.
Hi, me again. I know. I know. I don't know why Tucker needed to inform me of that, but yeah, I know. I think he was meaning to talk to Nick Cage, but we can't get Nick Cage for a Big Tug video. At least not yet. But yeah, I know that's not how animation works.
But instead, SNL legend Chris Farley was chosen for the role. Unfortunately, if you haven't heard, he died in 1997 because of a heart attack and drugs, and he didn't treat his body well. But that was after he completed 90% of his dialogue, so a lot of money spent, a lot of time wasted. This means not only did the movie have to scrap a $34 million worth of voice work, but they had to cast a new Shrek all over again. So yet again, they went the SNL route and hired Mike Myers for the film. Katzenberg actually pitched the idea to Myers after a screening of Saving Private Ryan, which is probably the worst time to ask anyone a question about anything ever. One of the saddest, bloodiest movies ever seen, and he's like, oh, that was crazy. How do you feel about talking donkeys in swamps, maybe? Luckily, Myers eventually agreed, but there was just one catch. He wanted them to rewrite the entire script. So they did. It's pretty cool when you have the money and the backing behind Steven Spielberg. You can do whatever you want a million times over. Finally, Myers stepped in and recorded all of his parts, but that was just the beginning. After viewing a rough cut of the film, the actor insisted on re-recording every single scene he was in so he could replace his Canadian accent with the Scottish one. DreamWorks agreed for some reason, which set them back another $4 million for him to do a little bit. I mean, it worked out. I can't imagine him as a Canadian, but still. Myers' Scottish accent is part of the equation that makes Shrek so special. But arguably, the movie's secret sauce is its rampant takedown of Disney. Like I mentioned earlier, Katzenberg left Disney under pretty bad terms to the point where Disney actually sued him. Watching Disney with this context in mind, it's pretty clear how pissed he was, and he put that pissiness into the film. With its satire on fairy tales, Shrek is even more of an assault on the Disney aesthetic. For example, think about the name Farquaad for a second. Lord Farquaad. It was supposed to sound like F***wad. That's what they were going for. His name is as close to F***wad as you legally can get without saying it, and he kind of looks a lot like Michael Eisner, a ridiculous amount like Michael Eisner. And the most damning part is Lord Farquaad's height. In real life, Michael Eisner is pretty tall. He comes in at like 6'3", while Katzenberg is 5 foot even. He's a little fella. But during their 1999 trial, Eisner was forced to admit under oath that in reference to Katzenberg, he said, "I think I hate that little midget." That's what he said from Don't Kill the Messenger. The whole trial was a pretty bad look for the leader of the happiest place on earth. And just to put a button on the ordeal, not only was Farquaad made into a gingerbread man torturing ruler, but he was also made incredibly short. So just a big you to that guy. Good for him. So Farquaad rules over Duloc, which is obviously Disney. Honestly, the plausible deniability of the shots taken at Disney is masterful. It's easy enough to watch them as simple fairy tale satire, which is what I did as a kid. I didn't know this beef was going down, and making it seem like it's just a coincidence that Disney fashions itself after a kingdom. However, it's clear to anyone paying attention and not a 4-year-old that they're taking shots at Disney, especially when Shrek and Donkey walk through the castle gates and the Clockwork Chorus starts singing Welcome to Duloc, which is a blatant ripoff of Small World, which I didn't realize until right now. And lyrics like "Don't make waves, stay in line, and we'll all get along just fine." It's made clear that this is satire of the disgustingly sterile kind of ethnic purity vibe that Disney has. And it's also poking fun at the fact that Disney takes these fairy tales and really cleans them up before we get to see them. Like in the original Cinderella, the sisters mutilate themselves. In Sleeping Beauty, the princess is sexually assaulted. In Snow White, the evil queen is forced to dance wearing a hot iron shoe until she dies. Jesus, these are dark. Okay, one more. In the original Pinocchio, Pinocchio kills the cricket with a mallet, and as a punishment, they hang him. I did not know that. Oh my god, is that what that... Do you guys remember that? I'm gonna give Chris the cut for that. There's that short...
Why are you holding that mallet?
I don't know.
You gonna hurt me with that?
What?
Are you going to hurt me with that, Pinocchio?
No.
But yeah, fairy tales were really dark back in the day. But they were effectively neutered by companies like Disney, which made Shrek's deconstruction of them so powerful. Katzenberg was firing shots at his former employer and also society as a whole. And doing so made the movie feel like it was edgy and in on a joke we all kind of inherently understood. The idea that happily ever after is just one way of being, or that beauty only comes from an overly polished Eurocentric presentation is insane. And Shrek took that idea, made it funny, made a couple chuckles ha-has out of it. And unlike other Disney princesses, Fiona was a feminist god icon with her red hair and green dress. How do I love Fiona? Let me count the ways. For one, booty. She got a nice booty. Can appreciate a little CGI boo. Now that I failed feminism, let's bring them back a little bit. She knows karate. No other princess knows karate. She also sidesteps all the dainty expectations of the Disney princess when she burps and eats rats, and at the end of it all, she embraces her inner ogre. And her kiss with Shrek doesn't unlock the spell normally, makes her ogre because that's who she is inside all the time, and it's, again, a you to Disney. Beast was so much hotter when he was a monster. Says the internet, I'm not a furry. Okay, I don't have to tell you how successful Shrek became, right? It debuted at Cannes Film Festival to a 12-minute long standing ovation, won the first ever Academy Award for Best Animated Feature, and spawned tons of content. But there's another part of the aftermath of Shrek, which is the music. And it weirdly important what the music did in Shrek. Shrek's soundtrack topped the Billboard charts and went multi-platinum. This was a big deal at the time because kids' movies didn't really license modern music for their soundtracks, which they kind of f***ed that up because now like we have Trolls and stuff, but when Shrek did it, it was good. You might have the traditional Disney route of musical theater adjacent songs written for the film and performed by pop stars, but that was nothing like the Shrek soundtrack. We got Accidentally in Love by the Counting Crows. We had Hallelujah by Jeff Buckley, and that song is so tragic, and they made it work so well in Shrek, but I get so mad when I play that song, people are like, oh, the Shrek song. No, that's not the Shrek song. That's one of the best songs ever written. It's not the Shrek song.
Last time you'll see me, I'm sorry. Accidentally in Love by Counting Crows was not featured in Shrek. That was actually Shrek 2. And Jeff Buckley's version of Hallelujah is not featured in Shrek, although I understand why Tucker's a little confused on it. Leonard Cohen is the person who wrote and recorded the original version of Hallelujah. John Cale recorded a version after Leonard Cohen, and that's actually the version that's in the film. Jeff Buckley was inspired by John Cale and recorded his own version. After Jeff Buckley passed away, Rufus Wainwright recorded his own version, which is also on this soundtrack, but not actually in the movie. That's the John Cale version. So yeah, Hallelujah and Shrek, weird sort of spider web story going on there. Okay, no more Chris for the rest of the video, I promise.
But they did a good job with the soundtrack is what I'm saying. And I also know what you're thinking. Tucker, what about Smash Mouth? What about Smash Mouth? Well, let me tell you. You can't really talk about Shrek without talking about Smash Mouth, particularly the song All-Star. All-Star was actually featured in a different movie in 1999. If it weren't for Shrek, we'd probably still think of it as a track from the soundtrack of the forgotten Ben Stiller vehicle, Mystery Men. Hell, even the music video still has characters from Mystery Men, which is Weird that they wouldn't bend towards Shrek, but whatever. Because it already had hit Billboard charts and been in a film, the producers of Shrek weren't intending to use it. They just put it in the movie as a placeholder until they could find a better option. But they couldn't find a better song to do what Smash Mouth was doing, and the song All Star is now inherently tied to Shrek for eternity, and Smash Mouth I don't think is not happy with that. But Smash Mouth is a pretty joke of a band, so it's fine. So the song stayed in the picture, and because it became such a runaway success, it catapulted the already fairly popular band into the stratosphere. Smash Mouth was everywhere, and so was their song. According to the bassist, Paul DeLisle, I don't know, every single show we played the last 20 years, there's at least one guy dressed up totally like Shrek. And it continues to this day. If you look at the Billboard Rock streaming charts, All Stars still regularly ranks in the top 100. It is a pretty good song, and it's just crazy how important, big this song is. If you look at the cumulative numbers from 1992 to 2017, Smash Mouth comes in at number 88 of the top rock songs of all time. If aliens came down to Earth and looked at our music purely by the numbers, they would probably think Smash Mouth was one of the best bands that ever did it, like Led Zeppelin or NWA. The fandom for this song is a confusing blend of irony and nostalgia, and that's kind of what Shrek is. Shrek has made a massive impact on our culture, one that runs the gamut from technology to storytelling and music. And I'm not just talking about the memes. Shrek is love, Shrek is life, Shrekstasy, getting Shreked, that's all par for the course, just because that movie is so important. But I think the lasting legacy of the Green Ogre is how he serves as a bridge. Shrek is a weird time capsule of a pre-9/11 world. This movie feels fresh to this day, but not because it's showing us something we haven't seen before. In fact, we've seen tons of things like it since its release. They take risks with the jokes in the musical direction, risks that could have failed. It's like we're watching an ogre walk on a tightrope in real time, and you're like, please, Mr. Ogre, don't fall. We need you for Smash Mouth. And there's also something carefree about the movie that represents a pre-9/11 world. It's the same carefree attitude that became aspirational in the post-9/11 world. And right in the middle of it is Shrek, doing exactly what we need it to do. Entertain us and make us feel good. That's all Shrek has ever been good for, and that's all I'll ever need it for. It also bridges the gap between generations, too. Whatever cultural war that's been going on between Gen Z and millennials right now is absolute madness, but what matters is that this is a type of common language, and it's one that helped us find our footing on the internet. Shrek is stupid and awesome, and it did actually change the world. And I think there's a lesson in there for all of us, and that lesson is, only a shooting star breaks the mold we old. Do videos every Saturday and sometimes Wednesday. Like, comment, and subscribe. I already talked about Extra Tug, but if you want to do it, it's $4 a month. Look at all these names. All these people can't be wrong. And they all put their name at the end of the video because they wanted to see it, but also because they want to support me and they get cool videos. And God forbid, I feel bad the things I show those people on that website. But I gotta go. It's Magic Night. I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you so much for watching.